Hi, everybody. We're streaming live here on Facebook. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. I'm Oren Rosenzweig, co-founder and chief business officer at Innoviz, and I've got Omer Keilaf here with me, co-founder and CEO. So first of all, many of you already sent questions in advance. Thank you for that. You've got a link in the comment section inside the live event where you can also post more questions now. We'll try to get through as many as possible. We actually got a lot of questions, so and we only have 1 hour, so we'll try to kind of get through as many of them as possible. As they come in, I'll kind of direct them either to Omer or to myself. So let's kick it off. Okay, so first question we got is...
Wait, say something about yourself.
To say something about myself.
I've been talking with the market for so long. They know me well. Okay. And I think they should know you as well.
Okay, sure. Putting me on the spot here. Thank you. Good. So, I mean, kind of introduce myself as the co-founder and the chief business officer. So, I've been working with Omer for a very long time, actually even before Innoviz. Spent 7 years together in the military, the same unit, doing R&D of electro-optic systems. Then actually went to the same company as Omer, which is called Anobit. It was acquired by Apple quite a long time ago. Then I spent a few years in the US, mostly doing consulting work, and then back to Israel, back then together with my oldest son and my first dog. It was beginning of 2016 to start Innoviz together with Omer and with Oren Buskila, who was leading the R&D. And since then, I'm leading kind of the product side and the sales side of the company. So everything to do with kind of customers or the product, those are the kind of questions I'll be kind of probably taking today. And of course, Omer, you know him because he's been very vocal and outspoken about Innoviz and with a very, big social media presence. So I don't need to probably say more about him. Okay, good. So thank you, Omer, for the opportunity to introduce myself. Let me jump into the first question we got, which is an interesting one. So the question is, what is the basis for competition for current opportunities? Is it mostly a price war, or are there other areas of real differentiation? So I can take this one. So I think the point here is that there are quite a lot of LiDAR companies, as you guys know, out there. And, you'd kind of expect that there's like a million different LiDAR products and, the competition would become like a price competition. But that's actually not at all the case. So what we see, and especially in the market that we're mostly focused on, which is the automotive market, when it comes down to the decision, which is the RFQ stage of the award, it's down to 2 or 3 players. And they're very differentiated. So it's about KPIs, the product spec, the reliability, the fit to automotive. Where we excel with
size.
Size of the product and many other KPIs, which no 2 LiDARs are the same. Okay, and obviously we designed ours, and especially the next generation Innoviztwo, which is kind of what I can talk to mostly about because that's the stuff we're competing with on most of the automotive opportunities out there, and it's very differentiated. Obviously, price is very important. I mean, the automotive industry, you want to get to high volumes. Price is of course super important, but that's not the main basis of competition.
If you can talk about, say, 2 examples of programs that we're competing on, and you kind of think about what are the most important KPIs in which you think that the decisions might be eventually be determined on.
Yeah, I think without going, of course, we don't want people to fall asleep here. So I'll try to keep it at a high level. If I have to choose 2, one relates to risk, basically, which is I think in this industry it's incredibly important to manage risk. Automotive is an industry that it's incredibly complicated to make a car, especially an autonomous car. And I think that LiDARs is one of the most innovative products out there, but innovation comes with risk. And I think without going into specific examples, but I think everybody at this stage of the industry understands that being able to meet automotive standards industrialization, ASPICE, functional safety, all the buzzwords in this industry, which are not just buzzwords, but like very difficult things to actually meet. It's incredibly difficult, and there are probably not even like 3 or 4 suppliers out there that can do that for a product like a LiDAR. And I think that's one of the differentiating factor for Innoviz. It comes with the experience of the team and everything that we've gone through industrializing InnovizOne for BMW as the first lead customer, together with the help of our partners Magna as a tier 1. But that's something that's kind of baked into everything we do from now on, and of course to Innoviztwo and everything else. And the other point is probably just, if I have to choose one KPI, technical KPI from the LiDAR, resolution I think is one of the most important and undervalued points, but that's the ability to being able to detect small objects is kind of the key thing when you're driving. And it's mostly about the resolution of the sensor, but I won't go deeper into that because that's
I have another example,
technical.
I think, which I think is interesting. There is one program that we are now taking, in which there is a car maker that actually wants to use LiDARs for existing vehicles, existing design. And there, the constraint is size, and that's why I kind of added that earlier, because they basically told us that they couldn't find any LiDAR that can fit their design. And you need to remember that a car maker doesn't have one design. There are usually multiple brands, different constraints, and it's very difficult when you're designing a platform based on a sensor that has a certain aspect ratio, and sometimes the requirement is for roof, and sometimes it's in the grill, and sometimes it's, and then the smaller it is, it's easier. And specifically on that program, we were told that the size of the LiDAR is what actually allows us to be currently the only supplier they are looking at. And I think that's what makes me feel that size is important.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Okay, good. Omer, let's go to the next question.
Okay.
I'll direct this one to you. So someone asked, what is B1 and why did you decide to change it from the B0?
Okay. Do I need to take? No, I don't need, right? Okay.
You've got one? Okay.
I have something on me. Okay. Yes, this one. Okay. Okay. B sample. That's a stage where you are designing a LiDAR to fit a certain, hardware design size. And it doesn't need to be automotive grade yet, but it needs to meet the performance and size because it's already planned to be embedded in vehicles where you're doing data collection. Specifically, the B0 was designed based on a certain program that we're competing on, and having that the customer have just, towards the end of the year kind of changed the planning in terms of where he wants to use the LiDAR. Instead of moving to the next stage of industrialization with that kind of design, we changed a little bit the aspect ratio of the LiDAR. We actually made it more fit for roof mounting, making it thinner. It came with a compromise on the vertical field of view. I mean, instead of 40 degrees, it's 30 degrees. And basically, that's why we shifted to the B1. Now, B1 also includes design for manufacturing, meaning that it's a product that is designed for tolerances in production. So the idea is that by the end of the year, we will have a design that we can go into volume production. Beyond that, we will move to the C sample, assuming that we will win this program. But there are other designs, B samples that might require changes better, possibly on the aspect ratio. Depends on kind of the mounting, but basically that's it. Next question.
Sure. Okay. Next one is something that just came in, I think. Does the introduction of Innoviztwo makes any delays with OEMs that intended to use InnovizOne? So the answer is no. I mean, nobody's delaying their nomination decisions because an Innoviztwo comes. I think both products have a good fit in terms of timeline. I mean, Innoviztwo was, it's a product that we've been offering for a long time now, and it is relevant for any OEM that's going into serious production beginning in 2022. Obviously, BMW is one of them.
Innoviztwo.
Innoviztwo, sorry,
Yeah.
I misspoke. I mean, I meant Innoviztwo. That's our first generation automotive grade product that we have. Innoviztwo is now at the stage, the B sample stage, as Omar said, which is kind of what you need to get to be able to win business, get awards. There are quite a few RFIs and RFQs out there now for OEMs from all over the world that are making their decision now for their SOPs. SOP is like an industry term that means start of production of the vehicle. Starting, let's say, late 2024, that's kind of the earliest opportunities that are out there now for RFIs and RFQs that exist today, and that's something that Innoviztwo can meet. Okay.
There's another question there.
Yeah, I know. It's
No,
I said the next question that popped up was what's keeping you up at night. In a very literal way, having two very young kids and two very young puppies, dog puppies. But from
Very new, right?
Yeah, yes, the kids and the dogs. All of them are quite new. New additions. That's from a very literal answer to that question, but from kind of the work side, which is probably what the person asking this question meant. As I mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities out there at the moment. I think the automotive industry has really, let's say, accelerated the pace at which opportunities, but for them, projects and new level 2+, level 3 programs are being kind of kicked off. And we're getting tremendous amount of reach out from these companies. In my job personally, this means that we've got a lot of interaction with the market, and including a few, let's say, late stage processes that we've been working on for a very long time. Some of them, I would say, even 2 years, that are in kind of the decision stage. So I would say that's kind of from a work side. That's stuff, at least for me. But Omar probably has another perspective on it, different aspects of the company.
Well, there are two things that keep me up at night. Mainly, I think one of them is the obvious one. I mean, there are those programs that we're pursuing and very much already want them to complete, right? I mean, we've been waiting for this for quite a long time, and so that's an obvious one. And the second is, we are now doing the production validation of the Innoviztwo in getting ready for the launch, and that's taking obviously a lot of effort as well. I'm spending days and nights literally being in the production hell, but it's fun. I mean, you see the progress. We are getting ready for Innoviztwo availability, general availability, and it's getting there. I mean, that's.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes.
Okay, next one. I think you can take this one as well. So, Omar, when do you expect broader commercialization of Innoviztwo?
Next year. I think Innoviztwo is going to be an amazing product. Really, I'm very, very kind of excited about this product because it is it serves so many purposes in terms of good performance and low cost, and it's actually a much more simple product since it has significantly less number of components inside, and the cycle time for the production is much shorter, and testing, I believe that it's a more set up to support the real volume that we want to bring in. The B1 is a process now that we're doing in order to design it for volume, and my expectation is that we will be able to leverage on that already next year in volume. Beyond the fact that Innoviztwo is also going to be in volume, right? But I was asked about Innoviztwo.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next one. I can take this one. So. There are basically two questions here that we can, I think, answer together. So can you tell me about the margins of Innoviztwo versus Innoviztwo? And also, it looks like you're moving towards being a tier 1 for Innoviztwo. So yes, there are two things here going on. So if I need to answer about the margins, there's basically, it's a different product, Innoviztwo versus Innoviztwo, a much better product with a much lower cost base that allows us to get much higher margins for it. And the other thing is a difference in business model. So it is true that now as a company, unrelated to a product specific, but as a company, we've built the ability, the assets that we need and kind of the capabilities to be able to offer products directly to OEMs, especially in automotive. So technically this means that we can offer them as a tier one versus, let's say, in like up until now with Innoviztwo that we've been primarily we're a tier two, meaning that we've been shipping components and our tier one partners like Magna did the manufacturing and sold the product to the OEMs. So at face value, I understand the question that, okay, maybe tier ones typically have lower margins in percentage than tier twos. But in reality, what happens is that we actually have higher margins, dollar margins in this way, because now that we're responsible for a much larger scope of what is actually being sold, not just our kind of custom in-house components, but the entire product. The dollar margin for every unit, for every car that's being built with an Innoviz LiDAR, the dollar margin is actually higher now in this business model of being a tier one versus a tier two. And when you kind of mix that up with the other point, which is it's also Innoviztwo with a lower cost for us, but with higher performance, so it's competitive in terms of the price that we can charge, and we can get higher margins because of that. So
And
that's kind of the two things.
There's
there.
less margin stack, right?
And there's less margin stack. So I mean the fact that there's like one less entity kind of in the process, because it's not Innoviz selling to a tier one, selling to an OEM. It's Innoviz doing a bunch of things in house, doing the manufacturing typically with the contract manufacturer, and then selling it. Then there's less margin stack in the process.
What's the reaction of car makers to this?
Okay, it's another good question. So it's actually quite positive. I think it's also something that we see shifting in the industry. I mean, this industry hasn't gone through many changes in the last 100 years, and now it's going through a lot of change in the last 5 years, let's say, or even 10 years. And I think the one thing that we see them being very open to is with companies like us, very innovative companies, to be offering components like this or systems like this directly. And I think they see the benefits in terms of speed, in terms of our ability to kind of react quickly to changes in requirements, because this is a very dynamic thing, developing an autonomous vehicle. And obviously as a young technology-based company, we're very agile, we're very fast. And commercially, basically what they see is that they can get a better offer this way for the reasons that also, Omer mentioned and I mentioned, the margin stack, the fact that we kind of do more things in-house, etc.
There's also the amortization element. I mean, there are so many things here that are making the product significantly cheaper, because it's no longer a situation where you have another company that is doing a lot of effort for a single program. We are basing our pricing based on the fact that we're going to serve multiple customers. So we don't need to offload all of the cost on just one customer.
Yeah, that's a big one. When you actually get to see the quote, that's another big one. Okay, next one, Omer, for you. Will BMW move eventually towards Innoviztwo?
That might be. I mean, eventually for the following programs, not this one. The way that car makers operate is that once they make a decision on the LiDAR, it takes a few years to validate the platform. That includes testing, not just the LiDAR, but they need to collect all of the data alongside with all of the sensors. They can't just test the LiDAR by itself. They need to test it with the camera that is going to be in the platform, the compute module, the radar, etc. So it's a task that is very complicated. So if you want to update one of the components, you need to do this endurance run, millions of kilometers data collection, and you need to do it with all of the radars, cameras, and it's not just taking one of the vehicles and go outside. There's a lot of test equipment that needs to be included in the vehicle for ground truth and a lot of manual effort that basically means that it's a very expensive task. So even with the cost saving, etc., it's not very likely that to be done to a specific platform, but there are future ones, and that's obviously in discussion. I think long term it makes sense to everyone to move to Innoviztwo, and I think that's kind of like also sometimes I get a question of like, is Innoviztwo going to replace Innoviz1 eventually? What's your answer to that?
So I think the answer eventually is yes. It's okay in the sense that there is it's maybe a slightly complicated answer because it has a time dimension in it, but yes, I mean eventually there are start of production vehicles that start in, let's say, late 2024, 2025-ish, etc., that obviously it makes more sense for us and for the customer to be looking at Innoviztwo for that timeline. So a customer that is starting to manufacture their intended vehicle, let's say in 2022 or 2023, like BMW is doing, obviously will not replace anything in 2 years, because that's not how the industry works. I mean, there is typically like a facelift, but a complete change is typically like a 6 or 7 year cycle. So you're not changing stuff every 2-3 years, because the cost of validating a complete system, especially with autonomous vehicles, it became even bigger. So you're not making such huge changes every 2 years. But for us as a company, obviously there's going to be a time point where, yes, Innoviztwo is the product we will offer, and not Innoviz1, but at the same time we'll still be selling Innoviz1s until like the end of the decade or even more, because there will be vehicles that are in production, and then like multiple vehicle models from the same kind of family of vehicles. Let's say in BMW, I mean, they've already said 7 Series, 5 Series, the iX, who knows what's next, and those vehicles are being sold over 6 or 7 years, then they need to be serviced, and we'll be making Innoviz1s for a long time, okay? So things will be kind of happening in parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another one which is interesting. So what happened to the large number of RFIs, RFQs that went away? Not sure I understand what went away mean, but basically what we've been kind of updating on quarterly was kind of a KPI of not specifically RFIs, RFQs, but specifically projects in late stages, or we call it commercial negotiation, which includes projects at, like, let's say an RFQ stage or late RFI stage of automotive customers, not just. And what happened? So basically we have many of those still. Some of them for now transitioned into a pre-production project. So we've updated on 5 of those recently. And many of them actually got, let's say, delayed in the sense that the decision got postponed. Omer mentioned a few before, and let's say the RFIs and RFQs that we've been talking about in the previous earnings calls, etc., they're still ongoing. I mean, they didn't go away. They're still there. There's just more and more of them.
Okay.
Okay, next question. Omer, what helps you stay motivated on good and on bad days?
I think it's a good question, because I think it's mostly because I'm enjoying working with the team. I think there is a really super dedicated, you see the passion in people's eyes, and seeing the big picture is keeping me super motivated, because I feel that I think the Innoviztwo is like, it's a product that I think gives me a lot of confidence, and I think that seeing like what we are creating gives me a very good confidence in being able to fulfill what we want, and you see that also in people, like how they work, and I know that it's not easy, right? I mean, we are in a complex environment. Working in automotive is but next time tell me. Not automotive, something else.
I think you already know. You already know that.
Yeah. But eventually, like we started this company to fulfill a certain mission, and I feel that we have what it takes to succeed in it. And although now it's a bit more difficult because we get a lot of hit on kind of like the quarterly, events on the earnings call and measured on a quarterly manner, but we are looking at the big picture, right? I mean, and I want to. For me, it's clear. Like I see, 2-3 months from now, where we should be, and I think that the kind of like the delay that were happening in these programs will eventually turn out to what we want, and that will make me feel that we made the right decisions. We are very focused on the automotive, and as such, we are 99% of our time just making sure that we win those programs. We make decisions on the product, right? The B1, the B0, on kind of like just making sure that we have what it takes to win this market, and I think we do. So that's keeping me motivated.
Very cool. Thanks. So next one, another fun one. Can you please explain your cash position? Are you comfortable for the next 2-3 years? Sure. So we finished last year, so a few months ago. We've mentioned this with about $300 million on our balance sheet, and if you look at kind of the burn rate of the company, etc., and definitely yes. The answer is yes. It makes us feel comfortable about the next 2-3 years or even more. And besides that, the other thing going on is the fact that there's more money expected to come in from the products, as Innoviztwo is going to mass production, general availability, as Omar mentioned, and Innoviztwo is ramping up. Money coming from that, money coming from NRE projects, etc. So
the 360.
Another product that we've also announced, the Innoviztwo 360, that we haven't had a chance to discuss yet today, but yes. So yes, the answer is yes. We're very well positioned in terms of our war chest, cash-wise, to be able to execute on the things we need to execute in the next few years. Okie dokie. Thank you. Next one, Omer. What are you passionate about other than managing your own company?
I think that there are several things that I do on a weekly basis. That there are many things that I'm trying to do, but there is always that hour in a week that I'm always it makes me always very happy, and that's kind of like the meeting with the young students that we bring in. I think it's
Do you want to tell people what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. So we actually asked different high schools in Israel, 9 graders, 10 graders, basically kids, that are at the point where they want to make a decision on what would be their main subjects, physics, computers, etc. And in Israel, we are a small country, and people talk about lack of people in high tech, and I think the only way to kind of try to solve that is if you bring that talent into the right attention early enough and get them excited to spend their time in joining this effort. And we invited these schools, and we have over 150 schools. So it means that we need to host more than 2 a week. Obviously, I can't do that twice a week, but at least I try to do it once, and I'm always very enjoying that because I love meeting with these teams and like teaching them. I love learning. To make them understand a little bit about what we're trying to do. And whenever they leave, I always get a very friendly email about how excited these kids are, and I'm sure that for some of them it might actually make a difference.
Mhm.
And we're trying also to connect them with engineers here and female engineers, because we understand that's part of the problem is to get female into this environment. So that's what makes me excited about what other things I can do beyond just doing like managing this company.
Yeah, completely right. I get to present to those schools like every couple of weeks myself as well, and I'm amazed with the quality of their questions. I mean, they're so much smarter than what we were when we were their age. Really,
That one of them actually wrote an article.
Yeah, I saw the paper about. Yeah, it was very interesting, and
it was very unique.
It's just really amazing. It kind of makes you feel optimistic about the future of Israel, I guess, or generally, kind of. It's a very positive thing for me as well. Actually, which relates to the next question I see here, which is what are the advantages / disadvantages of us being based in Israel? How does this position you to engage with global customers? I can take this one. So yeah, I mean, it's not an intuitive, let's say, decision to start an automotive company in Israel. There are no car makers in Israel. But what we do have in Israel is an incredibly talented base of people in the high-tech industry. Our ability to recruit people in Israel, and I lived in other places as well, but our ability to hire the top talent of engineers is, I think, unmatched in any other place. And I think we also we're very happy to have a good brand name in Israel, and we're in a very interesting industry, and we're working on very cool products, so that helps, of course, as well. But our ability to hire people in Israel is very good. And from a business perspective, which is the second part of this question, I think we're close enough to where I think the early adopters of LiDAR technologies are, which is the German industry. If you look at what Audi, VW, BMW, Mercedes is doing, they're really in the forefront of autonomous driving technology for passenger cars, like there always are with new technologies. I mean, it always starts from those premium car makers, and Israel is just 1 hour time zone difference from Germany, short flight, direct flight away, and there is a very good kind of business relationship between the two countries as a whole. So I think that it's not surprising that we have the project with BMW, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to announce other things that we're doing there.
What do you think about the culture of the Israeli in that kind of manner? How is our culture might be helpful or actually not helpful? I don't know.
It's I think overall it's very helpful. I think it's obviously every country has a different culture, and I lived in other places and I can kind of tell the differences. I lived in Germany as a younger person, and I lived in the U.S. and of course in Israel most of my life, and we obviously have a different culture than in Germany and in the U.S. I think it helps us innovate, our ability to kind of take risks, be direct, even internally inside the company, tell a person that they're wrong, even if they're like the CEO or anyone else. And it's our ability to take risks and be okay with mistakes sometimes, but really get to very advanced technology very fast. And I think what we've done also in Innoviz in the first few years, I mean, we've only been around in 6 years, our ability to, our speed and our ability to get to products is also kind of, let's say, a byproduct of us kind of being part of this Israeli way. Of course, there are parts where, like, of course, it's, there are parts which are challenging in the Israeli culture. Being direct when you work with people from other cultures that maybe are not used to that kind of thing, then that's something that you need to know how to manage, and I think we have good experience with that too. I mean, we have people on the business side, on the sales side, on the product side. We have very experienced people that have been managing these cross-cultural kind of interactions for many years. So I think we know how to manage it.
Yeah, I remember I had a discussion with a customer in Germany, and I opened a kind of a discussion about the cultural differences, and I remember when I told him that I think part of our culture, and people think that because all of the Israeli go to the army, there is a certain discipline in terms of fulfilling orders. And I think that's kind of like part of the misconception of the Israeli army. Because in Israel, when a soldier gets an order from its commander, usually people expect that the answer would be, yes, sir. But Israeli soldiers asks why. They ask like, why are you asking me to do this? And people think it's rude, but it's not. It's not coming from Israeli being rude. It's actually about Israeli wants you to succeed. I mean, people work very hard. They will do everything. If you get your trust, and we trust you. We will do anything to make what you want to succeed. And then we ask why, because we want to understand whether what we're trying to accomplish, maybe I can do it in a different way. And that's kind of like something that sometimes found strange. But really, I think what Israel is doing well is I think people work very hard, really want your customer to succeed. And maybe we're kind of like rude sometimes, but it's actually because we want you to succeed more.
Yeah, direct doesn't mean rude. I think it's something that people, when they work with us, they understand that we're not rude. We're just being honest and direct.
Yeah, just because we're honest.
Okay, another kind of serious subject. Is the situation in Ukraine impacting your business? Obviously what's going on there is very sad, but from a business perspective on Innoviz, there is no impact on us. So we do not, many companies do have R&D centers, development centers in the Ukraine, and could be impacted. Specifically Innoviz, we do not have any R&D there. We do not have any manufacturing there, like maybe some of the car companies, supplier companies that we work with do have that, but we do not. So I think just from a business perspective, we're not impacted.
Yeah, I follow closely kind of like what's going on in Ukraine. It's horrible. It's surprising to see that in 2022 we're feels like 500 years ago, in a way. Maybe just 100. I hope. There seems to be some interesting connection between the Israeli, Ukraine and Russia, and I do hope that I do want to hope that somehow the effort that is done by the government in Israel might actually help. It makes me proud, really, to see that we are taking some step here and actually proactively do something about this.
Yeah.
It makes me happy to see this.
We all hope that the situation there will be solved. Okay, back to let's say simpler topics.
How many quality engineers or people that are responsible for making the LiDAR automotive grade at Innoviz?
Repeat the question so people can hear everything. So how many quality engineers or people that are responsible for making the LiDAR automotive grade at Innoviz?
Okay, so yeah, sure. So can you go back? Can you go back to the question so I just make sure I'm not missing to that. So basically we have about there is quality and reliability. Those are two different things, and sometimes it's not very clear for people what's the difference. And in general, we have about 20 people working on quality. And quality is related to ISO and ASPICE and FUSA and supplier quality. So there's quite a few people working on those different disciplines. And actually, some of those efforts are shared between the two LiDARs, because being automotive is not only a product dependent, it's actually a company dependent. And being certified for some of these things are generally speaking, are not really related specifically to one product. So that's on the quality. On the reliability, there's about, I think, additional 30, because that's more diverse, because it's related to, that's actually more related to a component or system level. I mean, only the V&V, the verification and validation is about 15 people. That's a system level. And then you have design validation, production validation. That's about additional 10. Then you have the component level. The MEMS, we have about 5 only in the R&D, and I think 3 more in the operations. I think generally speaking, I think like total automotive grade quality and reliability is about 50. That's kind of like my guess.
And that's just the in-house people. I mean, we also have,
Yeah.
so through our partners.
It was about Innoviztwo.
No, I'm just saying because of the way we work. I mean, starting with Innoviztwo and the people working at Magna that contribute to this effort, and the advisory people that we work with at like companies like, without mentioning names, but like top advisory companies on these topics. And
maybe it's also interesting to kind of there are so many parts here, because I even didn't touch the software validation, the computer vision validation. That's additional 10 actually. Only the perception software validation. And there is the production validation, all of the tools for manufacturing, and you have the end-of-line tester. It's a lot.
Eventually find out it's most of the company.
Yeah, it's probably is.
At some point, yes. I mean, to make this thing work at the end of the day, so it's all about reliability and quality. Back to kind of a more high-level question. Is it difficult to hire people? Are more people leaving the company since COVID? I think, I mean, generally in the world, I think that's what you see, but in Innoviz, you don't see it. So actually, last year, almost no one left the company, also including this year. We're very good at retaining people. And we're also, as I mentioned earlier, I think we have a good brand name and good ability to recruit talent in Israel, which, by the way, is not easy, because you've got basically the R&D centers of all the top tech companies competing with us on talent here in Israel. Some of them have their biggest R&D centers outside of the US based here in Israel, including, let's say, Apple I mentioned earlier, and many others. And yes, there's strong competition for talent, but I think we're doing well there.
Last year we had, I think, between 8 or 10 people coming back to Innoviz.
Yeah, it's another cool thing. So people that left us earlier for different reasons, and many of them, a big part of them, actually decided to come back to the company, which is a nice indication as well. Omer, let me direct this next one to you. How do you plan to meet reliability and on Innoviztwo and on Innoviztwo?
I think I actually,
it's a repeat question.
I mean, there are so many things that you need to do there. Currently, on the Innoviztwo, we are at the production validation, and a lot of what we do is kind of like iterating the production cycle and making sure that it works, well. So we are beyond the design validation of the product, automotive grade, etc. It's more about now to see the process of the production stable. And there's many people working on this, not only at Innoviz, as you said, it's actually also many things at Magna, because Magna is responsible for the production in the high volume in Orly. We are responsible for the equipment, and we're responsible for the end-of-line tester, but that's on us. In Innoviztwo, I actually expect it to be easier, really. I think that the product is more simple, much less components, cycle time of production is smaller. All of the equipment is going to be reused. I think the end-of-line tester probably would be, basically a copy, I don't know. So I think it will be an easier path. There's another question here.
Yeah, I think, okay, so if you can take this one as well. So how do you see, so just popped up, BMW BMW adding more cars to use autonomous driving, not just the series previously announced. So I guess whether they're going to add more cars to the 5 and 7 and to the iX series, I guess that's the question.
I mean, that's a question that I don't know if like I can even talk about.
Right. Yeah.
I think generally speaking, well, I probably should let BMW. I mean, look, once BMW would start to communicate about this, and I do expect them to do that anytime soon, we will be able to also reflect back to what they're talking about. I mean, they are talking publicly about using. I mean, we had Richard on our earnings call to talk about the program, and he was talking about using the lidars and in level 3 in multiple vehicles, and it was also publicly discussed about the 5 series and the 7 series, and again, I would prefer just to after BMW would start marketing it, and I don't expect it to take too long. We'll be able to talk more about it, but we're already making revenues from selling lidars to BMW now, because they are ramping up volume for the production validation, endurance test, etc. But that's what I can say now.
Thanks. Okay, next one. I'll take this one. So what is the roadmap for LiDAR mounting and how it drives form factor considerations, for example, rooftop/windshield requiring slim? So I think this relates to something we mentioned in our most recent earnings call, and we talked about the fact that Innoviztwo actually will have more than one kind of form factor, more than one variant, and one of the first ones that we're introducing is something we called slim, and that's basically a good fit for the top part of the vehicle, either let's say a roof line integration or a behind the windshield integration. The fact that we call it slim is because the kind of the critical dimension there is the vertical dimension. I mean, that's from a packaging perspective, you typically have quite enough space, let's say to the width. Depth is kind of difficult, but still better than the height. So making it kind of like, let's say, short on the vertical dimension and wider, that makes sense. And we're working on both in parallel. So Innoviz1, for example, as we've already said, that goes into the grille of the BMW cars. Innoviz2 can go there as well. There's going to be a variant for that, and there's a variant for the top. And there are different trade-offs for doing either, and we support both. Let's say the biggest advantage of going high is especially on the ability to see the road further. Let's say that's the biggest one. There are also some other advantages, but there are also some difficulties of putting a LiDAR there, not just from a packaging perspective, also the thermal management of that part and in other things. So different reasons to put.
And the cleaning system.
And yes, and cleaning, which is also something that on the one hand, you're kind of further away from the road, which is good. Putting it behind the windshield, you can maybe benefit from the wiper, but there are other difficulties. So there are other different trade-offs of putting LiDAR in each one of those places. So basically, there is no, I mean, for us, it's basically an easy decision to support both because they're sharing the same platform, the same optical platform. It's not a big deviation for us to support both. And we see different OEMs that are currently late stage of sourcing with both of those different locations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one, also a technical question for you, Omer. Mm-hmm. Are the laser sensor and scanner used in Innoviz2 same or different than in Innoviz1?
It's all different. I mean, we are developing different chipset all the time. We're making progress on the ASIC, the detector, the laser now, and the scanner. In order to introduce 30 times improvement and 70% cost reduction, obviously nothing is, we're not shy of touching anything. And I think one of the things that we are doing well is making progress on those innovations. Meanwhile, we are taking the earlier version to production. The fact that we were able to bring up those components, this new chipset, to Innoviz2 is obviously things that we've been working on for quite a long time. And one of the things that people don't understand, maybe they do, once you engage to a serious production automotive program, there is a certain time where you have to cut innovation, right? Because you need to start doing design validation. You can't change anything in the design other than fixing things that are related to automotive. But you're continuing to develop those components, and you are looking to how to kind of include those in the next generations. And one of the difficulties when you are taking one product to the market, it takes a lot of effort, right? You need to invest a lot of time and money taking a certain design and take it through all of the validation and testing. So in a way, that's something that we talk about internally. I mean, the fact that some of those decisions have been delayed actually allowed us to introduce improvements in Innoviztwo. Between we make progress here on a monthly basis, and the fact that we are able to, those decisions were changed, and it actually allows us to include new updates to the design, allows us to win more programs eventually, right? I mean, Innoviztwo was a product that we won BMW with. We froze that design, and in order to win more programs, the fact that now we can introduce a new product and we have enough capacity, right? Because most of the R&D is behind, already kind of stopped working on Innoviztwo. It moved to industrialization, production validation, and all of that effort is now working to bring up Innoviztwo. And the innovation team is now working on bringing up new, kind of like the next generation. It's like a pipeline. You have the innovation, the R&D, the engineering, the production, and I think the fact that we can continue. And I can tell you, in Innoviz3, right? I mean, we're talking now. We have the new detector that we're developing, and we have the new ASIC that we are working. That obviously would not meet the timeline that we need to have for Innoviztwo, because that's a design that we're freezing now for other programs. But that will serve us to the next kind of cycle of innovation. So we're always kind of looking ahead. Even Innoviztwo, which is a price point of about $500, that's that's an amazing fit for the market of today, because the product performance is great, the price is great. But obviously, we need to look further when you talk about level 4 and level 2 for kind of the very, very, very low, high volume. You need to have it even further cheaper. So you have to continue to develop new chipset. I hope I answered the questions. Yes, we change it.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, it's different. Okay, I see that we've got maybe 4 or 5 minutes left. And there are maybe just only a few questions that we didn't get to. This one is easy. I don't know the answer to it, but it's easy. How do I buy one of those Innoviz baseball hats?
Were we selling it?
We're not, and maybe we should. So I think we should probably put up an online store on our website. That could be an interesting business line for us.
Or you join us. I mean, if you work at Innoviz, you get hats, right?
Exactly. That's the easiest way to get a hat. There was another question I saw earlier, somebody asking, why is Luminar valued at 10 times the value of Innoviz?
I don't think we should answer this. I mean, it's...
No, we cannot comment on any other company's valuation. Obviously, I think Innoviz valuation is low. I mean, it's undervalued. And I think everything we talked about today, once, once we're executing on all those things, that will, be impacted in the value of the company as well.
Let me try to maybe say something. Okay, so we're not the oldest company in this industry. There are several companies, lighter companies that started 5 or 6 years earlier than us. In a way, we only started 6 years ago, and we have a product going to automotive grade series production. We are now introducing a new product that is, I think, by far the best fit right to the market, and we are moving at a pace that I think others cannot really keep up with. I think the Innoviz 360, it's that's going to be another disruption to a market that I'm happy that we're able to bring in. And I think that if we keep that pace, we'll be in a very good position, not far from today. hopefully. So we didn't start as early as others, but we'll run fast.
Okay, good. I'm just trying to see whether we missed anything from all the questions that came in.
Yeah, is there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just looking through whether we've covered everything. So, okay, so I see that there's a question that I think we partially answered. Maybe that would be the last one. What are new opportunities are still out there for Innoviz1? Are you only competing on new business with Innoviz2 or with both? I think I kind of touched on this before, where like it kind of depends on what the start of production date for the customer. Automotive, I would say the main focus for automotive customers for us is Innoviz2. That's always where we start the focus. Then we open it up to other industries. With Innoviz1, we've already started doing that. So we've been opening up Innoviz1 to multiple other industries. You've probably seen some of our announcements in such a variety of different applications, from constructions to drones and security, surveillance, many different applications, smart cities. And Innoviz1, we've already gone there. Innoviz2, the main focus for Innoviz2 is still automotive, and of course in the future we'll also open it up also to other applications, because there are so many different uses for 3D high performance sensors. And of course, with the price point of Innoviz2, it will be even more relevant for some of these other applications.
Maybe I can add something. So,
Okay.
what I found very interesting, from different customers beyond automotive, Innoviz1 has a very interesting fit to markets that are looking for a sensor that is mounted very high. It's interesting because usually when you're mounting a LiDAR at high altitude, the use of 360 is actually not very useful, because you need to point it downwards anyway. And the ability to get a low cost, like very high resolution, long range at that kind of like cone is something that is very hard to kind of find. And I think that's kind of like what makes me understand, very good fit that we have in several applications that we're seeing more and more customers approaching us. Other than that, I'll just say, we have a certain strategy, which I think is slightly different than others, and we're trying to pursue it, and I believe it's the right one. Eventually, that the proof is in the pudding, and I think there's like additional programs that we are open to close, not very far from today, and there's a lot of energy poured in there, and basically, I have very good confidence in those, and I hope that we will be able to announce these things anytime soon.
So we're up on time, and I think we went through pretty much almost all the questions. Thank you everybody for joining us. We're very happy to have you join us, and really thanking everybody for all the support we're getting. We'll keep being open and transparent. It's part of our culture as a company, doing open sessions like this. Thank you, Omer, for joining.
Thank you, Owen.
And thanks everybody that stayed with us until now. Have a good night here in Israel, or a good day, everybody in the US, etc. And talk to you soon. Bye-bye.